Vinyl community, good morning, good day, good evening. Welcome back to the channel. 2025, here we go. This is the first video I'm filming of the year. It is summertime here, yet I'm wearing a jumper because it's absolutely freezing cold and raining. But yeah, here we go. Before I get into it, this is what's playing in the background here. Portico Quartet, Knee Deep in the North Sea. This is a UK jazz record from 2010. So it kind of predates the UK jazz scene or revival as we know it. Yeah, this is a really beautiful record. Yeah, I guess it's probably before people like, not before Matthew Housel kind of rose to prominence as a big name, but you know, kind of way before that sort of thing. Beautiful jazz record, feels very cinematic and classical in ways. Really interesting instruments. If you like maybe Penguin Cafe Orchestra or Woo, kind of has that really nice English sensibility about it. Really nice use of like minimal steel drums in it. Yeah, absolutely wonderful. On Real World Records, Portico Quartet. But what is this video going to be about? So, I think it was November last year, I put out a video which was called Completing My 2020 Wantlist. And in that I showed a bunch of records that I've been after for a very long time. And I finally finished, completed that list of things. The video had so many likes, so many views, more than I normally get. Lots of comments from people that don't normally watch the channel, which was really cool. And a lot of people said to me, show us your 2023 want list that you mentioned. We're really curious to see what's on there. There may be things that we have that you might want. Just put it out there to the universe. So this is what I'm doing. I'm going to show you guys my want list I wrote at the start of 2023. We're now at the start of 2025. There's 20 records in the list. I've got 12 of them. There's 8 remaining. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the 12 that I have picked up. And then we'll talk about the 8. And then at the end, I'll show you the full list that I wrote back then. So we'll start off with this record here. I think I've probably shown all of these before. I mean, I wrote this in 2023, so I might have forgotten to show them in videos, or I've shown them in the past couple of years. So you probably won't see anything new here if you watch every video I put out. But we'll see. But yeah, I definitely remember talking about this record last year. This was number 1 on my list, jazz band Defree Ego. An absolutely killer Argentinian jazz record. Came out in 1972 on 10 Records. Yeah, absolutely killer jazz, rock, funky fusion record. If you like the Electric Miles period, or you really like someone like Embryo as well, something like that, yeah, I reckon this is really top shelf music. This isn't an original pressing, but it is the What Music reissue from 2004. This was kind of sneaking up in price quite a bit too, so yeah, I kind of went to grab this one before it kind of goes into silly money category. So, what I do want to say quickly is, because I've got 20 records to talk about, I don't want to get into too much detailing too much of the weed. So what I've done is I've actually filmed audio clips of each of these records too, because I feel like just audio clips will sell it a lot more than I can kind of sell it. So the downside to that is there will definitely be ads in this video because I can't control that, but at least you'll get some audio of the music I'm talking about, because lots of people said in the last video that the audio clips were a really massive help in terms of hearing what it sounds like, kind of thing. So I filmed a lot of that stuff, and some of the clips are quite long. So what I'm going to try and do is keep my descriptions short and give you more of the audio, basically. So yeah, with that, the next one was Can Future Days. This had been on my list for God knows how long in the back of my mind, but I've kind of finally decided to target it a bit more and pay for a copy. So weirdly, I've said this in previous videos, but I didn't want an original pressing, but I wanted a pressing that came out 10 years later on Can's own label, Spoon Records, because that's the rest of the albums I've been picking up by Can have been the Spoon reissues. So the first issues on Spoon's own label. They've got like a white Spoon label with a bit of texture, and I know that these records always sound absolutely fantastic and are so much cheaper. So it's literally about 10 years from when the album comes out. There's always a Spoon reissue. So yeah, absolutely killer. This came out in 73, I think, so this will be an 83 pressing. But yeah, oh man, this is a top 10 all-time essential. No matter what genre of music you're listening to, whatever you're into, this is a record that I feel like surely everybody likes and digs and enjoys. Can Future Days, absolutely top shelf. Definitely remember showing this one in a video pretty recently. This was on my list forever. George Gruntz Noon in Tunisia. This came out in 1967 on the German MPS label. Sahib Shihab, Jean-Luc Ponty, Eberhard Weber, Daniel Humer. I don't know how to describe this, but it's, Tunisian fusion. So it's like a really interesting collaboration between two musical groups, which are the jazz musicians and the Bedouins. Really cool, various types of percussion, heavy drums, with like tambourines, flutes, violins, drums, like really interesting sound, and like a really cool, unique record. Yeah, Noon in Tunisia, absolutely wonderful. That one blew me away when I first heard it. Okay, the next one is a record that came out in 2010 on Caldo Verde. Now, if you are a fan, you'll know what this is immediately. This is Sun Kill Moon, Admiral, Fell Promises. This is a record that I fell in love with immediately when I heard it, pretty much around 2010. This always reminds me of the VC in the early days, because there was lots of discussions about this album when it first came out. Mark Kozlek is doing full classical guitar, properly singing, absolutely beautiful, gorgeous music. I think it's my favorite of his releases. I mean, I'm not saying I've heard everything these days, but absolutely fantastic. I saw him perform shortly after this too. So yeah, this has been on the list for a long time because it was so hard to get. There was like a white vinyl pressing that came out at the time, and I kind of didn't want to get that. But last year, a double vinyl version came out on this crazy, like, smoky vinyl thing here that was really expensive, but it sounds absolutely fantastic, and it's a really clean pressing. This is one that was recommended to me by Chris Cole back in the day. Ronald Schneider's Natural Sources. This was on the list. Originally came out in 1977 on Black Straight Music. This is a original pressing. So this is on Ronald's own label. I'll show you that quickly there. So he is a musician from Suriname, and it's kind of a mixture of like Latin, jazz funk, spiritual jazz, kind of just really, really interesting, really beautiful. It's kind of, I suppose you'd say it's a fusion record. But yeah, all instruments are played by Ronald. There he is looking super cool on the cover there. I love this record. It sounds really, really organic and sort of the same way that it has a similar vibe to like what Don Cherry was kind of doing, if that makes sense. It's hard to describe it, but absolutely wonderful. His second record, I think it's called A Safe Return or A Return Home, is one that I really, really would like to get, but that's also very expensive these days. A bit more funkier than this one, but yeah, he's from Suriname, but lives, or he was, or is if he's still alive, from Holland, or the Netherlands, I should probably call it. Yeah, fantastic. Jumping back to Argentina, I did show this one when I picked it up early last year. I think Dom did a bit of a deeper dive into it on his YouTube channel. This came out in 1975, called Inspircion, by Ara Tokatlian and Enrique Villegas. I'm butchering those pronunciations. 1975, spiritual jazz, really, really beautiful. This has definitely grown on me over time. Obviously the artwork is what originally attracted me to this. This has now since been reissued on the AltaCat label, so you can definitely get a copy of it. But yeah, this is an original pressing on the Cabal label. I love this artwork. Yeah, really, really beautiful. yeah, it's kind of it's not spiritual jazz, but it has a spirituality to it, is what I'll say. It's quite minimal, quite beautiful, quite reaching, I would say. Okay, next one. A record on Steeplechase that I heard in the early days of learning about Steeplechase. And it's this wonderful record here. Monette, Sudler, Brighter Days for You. This came out in 1978. It's just really amazing jazz funk fusion. She is an incredible guitar player. For people that are big fans of Khan Jamal, the marimba player, he is on here. Yeah, absolutely fantastic, killer. I'll let the audio clip kind of do the talking. Monette, Sudler, Brighter Days for You. This one was on my list for the longest time because I remember this label being talked about in the VC quite a lot, sort of like 10 years ago. It's the Seeds label. There's a bunch of really cool stuff on this label. It's quite I think there's a short run. It's only about 5 or 6 records. And I want to say they were out of Massachusetts somewhere. I could be wrong. There's one record I really like, which is the Jian Lee record on Seeds. But I'm pretty sure this is the first release, called Birigwa. And I guess, how would I describe what this is? It's basically African folk with bits of like Afro-Caribbean jazz on it. It's hard to. It's essentially an African folk record. And Birigwa, which I am assuming is this guy here, is from Uganda. So yeah, really interesting. The other record to check out, just come back to me now. It's called Natural Food. I'll put the thing up here. Okay, what else have we got? Okay, we're going to move over to the UK now with this wonderful record here. Mike Cooper, Trout Steel. This is on the amazing, obscure and hard to find Dawn label. There we go. This came out in 1970. I'll show you the cool gatefold. I don't know if you can tell, but this is printed on this really cool textured stock here. So this is like it's a folk record essentially, with some avant-garde interesting elements on it. Mike definitely goes on to way more experimental and interesting things later in his career. Especially recently, there's a really amazing collaboration with Steve Gunn that came out a few years ago, which I really enjoy. But this is his first record, called Trout Steel. A whole bunch of really interesting people play on this. A lot of your UK jazz guys, Soft Machine. People went on to play in Soft Machine. a lot of folk people that went, you know, like, okay, so I'm going to try and read these out here. Stefan Grossman, amazing guitar player. Mike Heron from the Incredible String Band on vocals. Mike Osborne, the sax player. Alan Skidmore. John Taylor on piano. Harry Miller on bass. Roy Babington, who I know from Soft Machine. You know, it's just a really, really cool who's who of those sort of UK jazz and prog musicians. They went on to do some really great things. Says here, Mike Westbrook and Norma Winston were present, but they sat and watched. Yeah, so really interesting. Yeah, I really, really like this record. Okay, this one I can be brief with because it's one that everybody should at least know. Pharoah Sanders' Karma. These records don't show up at this part of the world really ever. I managed to grab one of these from Japan finally for a reasonable price. I managed to get it for a reasonable price because of this, which I don't really mind or care about, to be honest, as long as the record is clean, which it is. Masterpiece, essential, the template for a lot of music. 1969, but yeah, what can I say? Nothing really. All right, we've got two more, and then I'm going to take a break, and we will move on to the ones that I would like to get. So we've got this, which I've talked about most recently, and maybe my last video even. I finally grabbed this towards the end of last year. 1965, an absolute classic. Yeah, I won't say too much about this. I think this is a killer record. One of the best Blue Notes, for sure. And then finally, yeah, it took me a long time to grab this one too. But once I sort of wrote it down on my list, it ended up coming my way locally through New Zealand, which I was really happy about. It's Link Wray with the die-cut cover, the self-title from 1971. What can I say about this? Absolutely amazing album. There's so many great songs on here. La Di Da, Jukebox Mama, Fallen Rain, of course, Fire and Brimstone, Black River Swamp. Yeah, killer record. Link Wray's first. I was out playing some records, doing out at a bar a few weeks ago, and I decided to play kind of like a rootsy country rock bluesy kind of set. And at the end of it, an older American couple came up to me and they said, "Thank you for playing this music. We loved the funk. We loved the groove. It took us back to our youth." And they were just absolutely smiling and beaming and really, really happy that they hadn't heard some of the stuff since they were much younger. And that really made my day. It was just so nice to see them. I think they were on holiday here visiting. And they were just over the moon to be able to sit there and have a drink and listen to a lot of stuff they hadn't heard in a very long time. Surely that's what records are about, and yeah, it was a really nice moment. But yeah, I'm really happy to finally get a copy of this killer record, Link Wray. All right, moving on to part 2.
I hear talk of people, I feel the falling rain. I see men crying, cause the whole world has let them down. Kids are laughing at funny faces of the clown. My mind is like a spring in a clock, it won't unwind. I can't see, I can't think, I can't feel, I'm out of time.
Alright, as you might be able to see, it's raining outside, so I thought I'd try and put something a bit more uplifting on. This is African Head Charge's Songs of Praise, 1980, quite a bit. So I really like the early African Head Charge records. This one came out quite a lot later. I think it's kind of seen as one of their more well-known ones. Still an absolutely kind of killer record. Just a really deep dive into lots of spiritual chants, church music. I don't know how to describe it. Absolutely fantastic either way. So yeah, here we are. We are back at part 2 of the video. So I'm going to go through 8 records that are on my want list. And we'll see what happens. The first one is the debut album from an Italian prog, jazz funk prog band called Napoli Centrale. The album, it came out in 1975. It's just a self-titled record. It's just one that I've been wanting for a long time. Just really killer, cool playing. Hopefully it's not too expensive. I haven't checked in a while. I think it has been reissued, but I've kind of always wanted an original. So that's from Italy. Definitely would like to have a copy of that. The next one would be a record that was played to me many years ago by a friend, Christian Mizzi. We were at Campo's house and he put a record on, and it was this record here, Lucio Battisti, and it's called Anima Latina. It came out in 1974, and it just kind of blew my mind. I didn't know what to expect. It kind of sounded so modern, so timeless. The production was so fresh. I couldn't believe it came out in 1974. But it's just an Italian record that's all over the show. It's kind of like proggy, funky, Latin-y, rocky. Just I can't describe it. It's just an absolutely strange, interesting, beautiful record. 1974. There's kind of multiple early pressings of it, so I need to kind of do some research and figure out which I want to grab hold of. But that's definitely number 2 on the list. Number 3. You should probably all know this record. Lots of you will recognize this album here. This is Phil Cohran and the Artistic Heritage Ensemble, and the album is called On the Beach. It originally came out in 1967 on Zulu Records. Now, I'm obviously never going to get anything close to an original copy, and then the reissues now are kind of all out of print. There is a reissue with a really terrible album cover, which I don't want at all. There was a 2LP reissue that has now kind of sold out. So yeah, I'm hoping that there'll be a reissue of it at some point. But yeah, it's a really cool soul jazz, spiritual vocals, African jazz. I don't know how to describe it. Really cool record. It's been on my list forever. Would love to get a copy of that one. Next is George Reyes El Tunkul from 1983. out of Mexico. Now, in my previous video, I showed a George Reyes record, and this is the other one that's been on my list. Now, I can't describe it, but I will say that the Discogs description is electronic tribal prog, which I absolutely hate as a description. And it doesn't, that sounds terrible saying it out loud. But yeah, just check it out on YouTube. You'll see what I mean. Yeah, very, very interesting. The next one is Kraftwerk 2, which is the one with the green cone on it. I've got Kraftwerk 1. I'm actually just going to grab it. So I've had this copy for years now, the first Kraftwerk. And I got this really, really beautiful Japanese pressing that sounds absolutely killer. So I've been trying to track down the 1979 pressing, the Japanese 1979 pressing, to kind of tie in with this because I'm a picky vinyl collector. But yeah, this first record is classic, but the second one contains the track Kling Klang, which is one of my favorite Kraftwerk pieces of music. I was really lucky enough to see them at the start of, it was either the back end of 2022 or earlier last, I can't remember when I saw them. Anyway, I saw them in the last couple of years and they were amazing. So it really kind of, made me think I need to kind of focus on getting that one at some point on the list. We'll see what happens. But yeah, Kraftwerk 2, fantastic. The next one has been a record that I've been aware of for a long time because of a long-time VC member, Anders in Stockholm. Doesn't make videos anymore, but just an amazing knowledge on jazz. Really, really showed me the way in terms of lots of really cool, interesting jazz I don't know about. He, back in the days, talked about Steve Lacy all the time and really switched me on to Steve Lacy and really helped me understand more avant-garde jazz and yeah, kind of turned my ear onto a lot of different stuff. But this album is called Disposability and came out in 1966. It's got some really interesting musicians on it. Aldo Romano is on there as well. I mean, from a design point of view, I love this cover here. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I think there is, and the originals are crazy expensive. There's some sort of unknown reissue that I might try and grab at some point, but even that's quite expensive. We will see. All right, there we go. So we got two more to go. This next one is one that I held in my hand back in 2010, and I was not sure what it was or if I should grab it, and I kind of regret it now. It is the East New York Ensemble de Musique, and it's called At the Helm. Now, originals are way out of my league, but the 2010 reissue pops up every now and again, but it's still going to cost me, over $200 to get a copy of a 2010 reissue, which just seems so silly these days. It originally came out in 1974 on Folkways. Just absolutely killer record. It's like jazz, African, Cuban, spiritual jazz. Lovely, Arabic sounds to it from what I remember. Absolutely beautiful record, but I don't want to pay that money for a 2010 reissue. So hopefully it'll get repressed, or hopefully I'll just get lucky on eBay or something like that. I do check every now and again because I do really would like that record. But yeah, I do remember, in fact, being with a couple of the old Aussie VC members, and they all bought copies of it at the store, and I didn't buy it. And I think about that a lot. And here I am, 15 years later, and I should have bought it at the time. So there we go. And then the last one is kind of an interesting record because it came out. It's a reissue of. It's an Angolan folk record, and I first heard about it in 2013 when the label Analog Africa put out a reissue of it. and they had slightly changed the name and slightly changed the artwork. And it's just a really beautiful Angolan folk record called Rabita. I now know that there is a 1973 original Angolan pressing, which I'll never get because it will never be in decent shape. And the reissue now goes for over $100 for a 2013 reissue. I don't want to pay over $100 for a copy of it, but for some reason that one is really expensive. And Analog Africa is still going, still putting out stuff. Like, I hope that one day they repress it because it's a really, really beautiful release. But that's been on my list again forever. Okay. And here we can see inside my Gmail. Here is the list that I wrote to myself Sunday, June 18th, 2023, to myself. And here is everything that I wrote down. Some of them I probably didn't spell correctly, or was a bit lazy about. But yeah, there you go. There's the list. So we can delete all of these. They're very satisfying. So there we go. Yeah, that's my list. Again, like I said, nothing that's going to shatter the world. Just things that I would really like to get. So I hope you all enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed the sound clips. Thank you for watching. Thank you for all the views in the last few weeks. Hopefully a lot more exciting things coming this year. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you soon. Take care.